Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're finally going to be doing the review on Avatar Fire and Ash.
This is the only pure thing in this world. The fire came from the mountain, burnt our forest. My people cried for help. But Ava did not come.
So it took me a little while to go see this movie because I wanted to see it in IMAX and I was waiting for a few friends to go see it. But I finally saw it yesterday evening in an IMAX theater, and it was quite a spectacle. So there's a lot that I want to talk about in this video. I haven't really done a spoiler thing since Tron Ares, but I kind of want to do that too because there's some spoilery stuff that I'd like to talk about, which greatly influences my opinion on the movie. So yeah, let's get into it. Also, I'm doing it in this format again. I don't prefer this, but yet again, I don't really have much of a choice. So Avatar Fire and Ash is directed by James Cameron, who you might know from The Terminator, Aliens, Titanic, and the previous Avatar movies. You've probably seen a James Cameron movie at some point. He's a fantastic director, and this is now the third movie in the Avatar franchise, which is something. I mean, some people are really not happy about the fact that this is becoming a whole big franchise. I don't necessarily have that much of a dislike towards that idea, but there is a lot to say about this movie, in my opinion. There's been a lot of criticism surrounding the movie because people think it's repetitive. There's also a huge portion of people who actually really likes the movie. I have my fair share of issues with the movie. I don't think it's perfect, but I did have a good time. Though the runtime of about 3 hours and 15 minutes did really feel very long. I'm actually currently rewatching the Lord of the Rings franchise, and although those movies are longer, they don't feel as long as this movie does. I don't know why that is. Maybe there's something about Avatar that kind of drags every now and then. There's just a lot of world building. That's always been a thing in the Avatar movie, so you kind of gotta like that stuff. And to be fair, the fact that I got to see it in IMAX did elevate that a lot. I've seen the first movie at home on my TV, and the last movie I saw at a local theater here, so it wasn't really that impressive. But seeing it in IMAX, I mean, everybody's already said this, but the movie looks spectacular. It is absolutely gorgeous. You can really see where the budget went into. But that, of course, isn't everything. There's also a thing with a higher frame rate. I don't know if they show this at every movie theater, but at the IMAX theater they did, where the movie at certain parts also has a higher frame rate, which is to show greater detail. It allows for a lot of the background to shine through a lot more, so you can really look anywhere and everything looks great. Though there is this thing of the last Hobbit movie came out and they had that same thing where it's like a higher frame rate. The only difference here is that it wasn't for the whole movie. And going into the movie, I thought that it was going to be higher frame rate for certain scenes and lower frame rate for some, but it was actually, they pretty much determined that per shot and not per scene, which could get really annoying because there were certain scenes where you'd see a close-up of a character in high frame rate, it would switch to something else and then back to the character, and you'd essentially have the same shot in a lower frame rate. The switch also made it feel a little unnatural at times. I think the higher frame rate is something that if you go into one of these movies, that doesn't happen all that often, but you kind of get used to it at a certain point. But after going back to that every now and then, that kind of feels weird. The switch is a little annoying. I was actually hoping that the whole movie would have just been 50 FPS, and that would have just been, I think it's 50 FPS by the way. That would have just been better, in my opinion, if the whole movie was just that, instead of it switching between certain scenes. I did not like that all that much. Though, like I said, the higher frame rate does allow for a lot more detail to shine through, so that I liked. That really worked, so I get Cameron's vision on that. I don't think there's necessarily a lot of new areas to cover in this. There's a lot of stuff that was also in The Way of Water, which also looked really good in my opinion, so I don't necessarily mind that, but I was hoping for maybe some more diverse locations on Pandora. There are some, but not a lot, and they aren't all that present in the movie. I've also really had this problem with pretty much since the first Avatar, where I can feel the stakes and I can feel the emotion between certain characters. It's just that most of the characters don't necessarily click that much with me. And that problem mostly shined through in The Way of Water with these children of both the water tribe. I don't remember what the tribe people were called from the water tribe, but they had these children, and then Jake Sully's children and Neytiri's children. Most of the time they were just annoying. I hated the whole thing where they kept calling each other bro, and that was very much still present in this movie. That was a little bothersome, but I guess that's a bit of a nitpick. But like I said, the children, I think they were less annoying in this movie than they were in the last one, because in the last one it felt like a lot of teenage drama. That wasn't necessarily the case in this one. Also, one thing that I didn't really like Spider in the last movie. This movie gave me a lot of reasons to like this character now, which I'm actually very happy with. He actually goes through a major change in the movie, which I think is quite cool. If you've seen the trailers, you probably know what I'm talking about. So I think they did a lot of interesting stuff with this character, a character that doesn't really fit into either world. So that's cool. Other than that, I think they did a great job of Neytiri in this movie. She was grieving the loss of her son, of course, and a lot of great scenes with her just being angry and not being able to let that go. I think Miles is probably one of my favorite characters in the movie at this point. He already was, but there was just a lot of stuff with him that I really liked. Same for the Fire Tribe lady. I think her name is Varong. She was also quite great, quite cool. A pretty compelling villain. So she also had some hard as hell lines with the whole "your goddess has no dominion here." I like that. So there was a lot to like about those characters, though there are still some throwaway characters. And another problem that I maybe have with this movie is that at a certain point towards the final battle of the movie, there was a certain point at which I was like, I don't really feel any stakes here at all. I feel like it's just going to end the same as the last movie. And though I don't have much of a problem with the movie being somewhat similar to the last movie, as long as this adventure is interesting enough and through its visuals and action and spectacle keeps me hooked, I'm actually quite okay with all this. Though I think Cameron needs to step it up for the next one. But yeah, like I said, in the final battle, there was the stakes weren't really there anymore. And that was a little unfortunate. Also, I think that this movie could have been cut down a bit. In my opinion. I know it's been a massive thing to talk about the runtime of Avatar, but I seriously feel like, okay, we get the point. There's been enough world building. We understand. I feel like they should just cut on the runtime, and they'll be more accessible to the new audience. But whatever, it doesn't really matter because these movies still make more than enough money, so I guess people usually don't really care. But like I said, I could have had the movie be half an hour shorter, and I think I would have liked it more at that point. And going back to the complaint of the movie being too similar to the last, I don't even necessarily agree on that. I think there's enough here to differentiate it from the last movie. The only thing where I feel like there are some similarities is one thing having to do with Spider being captured yet again. The final battle between the humans and the Na'vi, that was quite the same as last one, though I think there's still some things they throw in there to make it newer. And the locations that they use, I think there's a lot of stuff that's very similar to the last one. I think if they do maybe like a snow area in the next movie, or like maybe like a big mountain area, something like that, they could do something cool. But I feel like a lot of these locations I've already seen, which is a little unfortunate because I always felt like Avatar was the movie for world building, to show me these awesome looking locations. And in this movie, I mean, it all looked great, I'm not gonna lie, but still there's this thing of like, I feel like they could have done some more new things in that regard. But in terms of the story, this one is actually largely about faith, religion, which I don't feel like that is a shared theme with the last movie. So I think that's something very new, and I actually really appreciated it. I really liked it. So in its overall theming, I think the movie did something new and interesting, and I really appreciated it for that. But to be completely fair, there was not like a moment in the movie where I was like, oh yeah, I'm really 100% feeling this. And to be fair, I don't think Avatar really ever had that with me. I like Avatar. I don't love it. I'm not an Avatar fan. But this movie entertained me enough to the point where I'm like, okay, I like it. And I enjoyed my view. But that's not going to be the same for everyone. If you are already getting bored of the Avatar formula, then this is not going to be for you. You really need to have seen the last two movies, especially the last one, The Way of Water, because that ties closely in with this one. And, I mean, that 3 hour and 15-minute runtime is not going to be for everyone. So if that's too much for you, then I'd say just skip out on it. I don't think that it is a must-see in theater. It is kind of this thing of like, if you're gonna see it, if you're thinking about it, then do it now before it's on Disney Plus, because this is the true way this movie should be viewed. There's gonna be a massive improvement in your enjoyment if you're gonna watch it in a theater, or an IMAX theater especially, because this is a cinematic event. That is what Avatar has always been, and it still is. So if you want to be part of that, if you want to experience it as that, then I'd say absolutely go see it. Otherwise, you can skip out on it, like I said. If you weren't already an Avatar fan, this is not going to convince you to become an Avatar fan. So yeah, do with that what you will. I think that's all I wanted to talk about when it comes to non-spoiler stuff. To be fair, I had this thing throughout the movie where at the ending of it, I was like, I don't really remember much of what happened in the beginning. Which doesn't make it easy to do a review on it, but like I said, I did have a good time, so whatever. So, I'm gonna get into spoilers now. I'm gonna talk a little slower to give you some time to click off. Maybe you've already seen it. The movie's almost out for 2 weeks, so whatever. But one of the major things that I liked story-wise in this is the sort of triangle between Jake, Spider, and Miles, that they both care very much for this character. And in that sense, have a connection in which, in this movie, they set aside their differences to help Spider out twice. Once in the early stage of the movie, and once during the final battle, in which Miles and Jake fight somewhere in the sky. And I think that was an absolutely spectacular scene to behold, which was part of the big fight. But that's what I meant with more new stuff within that final confrontation. That's like the stuff which I did really enjoy. And also the joke that Miles made when he was like, well, this is awkward. I just felt that was a very easy joke to make, but it just kind of worked. Also, the connection that Miles has with Varong, the new villain, is actually quite interesting, because Miles kind of hates the Na'vi in the last two movies. And he seems to be letting go of that a little bit, so there's a lot of potential for character growth, which I think would be very interesting. I just think Miles is one of the more interesting characters in the movie. You can do a lot of cool stuff with this character. I can see this going two ways I can see this going the way of, oh, he's just gonna remain the evil prick and maybe even become more evil, or he can actually, like Jake suggests in the movie, open his eyes, which could also make for a very interesting twist in this character. And Varong as well, someone who turned her back on religion, kind of the exact opposite of what Neytiri does. Makes for a very interesting character. Kind of these two opposites. They don't really like each other as well, so that's also another element that I really liked about it. So I'm kind of in between the critics and the lovers. I liked it, but I don't love it. I like I said, I'm still kind of on board for a fourth one, but I feel like James Cameron does need to step it up a little bit. Do something like completely different. But we're going to have to wait and see. These movies have been filmed back to back, and I'm pretty sure they're taking a bit of a break between this one and the next one. So I hope they're actually going to do something incredibly different. And in that case, I am still very much interested in this. So I'm pretty sure that's all I've had to say about the movie. If you have any more questions about certain things, you want my opinion on certain things in the movie, just ask. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. It is almost 2026, so I already want to wish you guys a happy new year. I'll be back with a bunch more next year. I'm thinking about doing like top 5 videos real soon of my favorite movies of the year and my least favorite movies of the year. I thought that could be fun to do. Also, this is very random, but I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book for the first time in like 10 years. I'm reading Dune. I've always been interested in the books, because I've seen the movies and I like them, so I want to get into the books, so I'm doing that. And there's going to be more theme park overview videos next year. Disneyland is something I'm going to. Probably Phantasialand, maybe Walibi. I'm not sure what else is going to be on the list, but be sure on the lookout for that. Be sure to subscribe for more content like this. Like I said, I wish you guys a happy new year. Have fun. Don't lose your hands to fireworks. And I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye-bye.